Wow. I could not have rounded and summed that up any better. That was, and there's so much footage on you that it's very difficult to kind of compact that all into to one episode. We would need to have segments that would probably run on through like May to kind of fully get
Yeah.
the impact of what you're doing in your work out here, and how you're helping, and all the things that you and your family, that you guys, the sacrifices you guys have made. I've had an opportunity to speak to your husband once. Let's give him a quick shout out real quick, because family is important, in the posture and having someone hold you up when you just don't feel like you can push on anymore. So we're gonna give a shout out to that brother
Amen. Thank
and
you,
make sure that
Archie, and thank you, Ian, because you're
uh,
right. It is
it's a
whole
family
family is
affair.
affected.
Absolutely. So in that video, you talked about what workplace abuse is. Um, Real, not as detailed, but people can identify with some of those vernacular and some of that verbiage that you use to describe if you're going through any one of these things. So is there anything that you want to take this time to discuss, particularly about workplace abuse and how to identify it, and lastly, what can folks do about it?
Here's the deal: 9 times out of 10, everyone has been abused in the workplace at some point in their careers. It might have started when you were working at the local Dairy Queen or the local Ladybug or at the Roadhouse, Texas Roadhouse as a teenager. All of us have been abused in the workplace. And the unfortunate thing is that we have allowed as a society to believe that that is normal. It's not normal. We have normalized it to the point that now companies have been able to they've been able to tell legislatures that if you want to maintain your position in politics, you need to vote in a way that's going to allow us to not be able to be held accountable for how our employees are treating one another in the workplace. But the reality of it is, workplace abuse, think about this, it's just like sexual assault as well as domestic violence. Think about this, those two were never considered to be crimes, and it took a long time for governmental entities to say yes, these are indeed crimes. But you don't have sexual assault and you don't have domestic violence but for the psychological abuse that is the precursor to the sexual assault and the domestic violence. Everything is rooted in psychological abuse. It's rooted in the psychology. It is the grooming process. It is the manipulation. It is the gaslighting, retaliation, the screaming, all of those things that will try to dictate your behavior, to make you feel less than, to make you feel as if you can't fight back, and allow them to control you, to accept whatever unconscionable behavior comes thereafter. So if people look at this from the very basic foundation, the root cause of sexual assault as well as domestic violence is psychological abuse. If we're able to have laws that address the psychological abuse component, I believe we will be able to lessen the number of the sexual assaults and domestic violence cases that we're seeing in our country and around the world. I tell people we have the solution. It's called being nice, being kind, being compassionate, embracing each other, embracing our differences, connecting with one another through our similarities as well as our differences, and being respectful, giving each other dignity, expressing dignity. It goes both ways. And where that does not exist, we are allowing people to use those unconscionable behaviors to offend. And that's what it is. It's assault. It is an assault of our mind. There is scientific evidence that your brain is being battered, it is being bullied, and it affects your body. I say and will continue to say that I got triple negative breast cancer, the most deadliest form for Black women. They gave me cancer. They gave me cancer. The stress gave me cancer. And I've done an entire series on the physical pain, the physical effects that workplace psychological abuse, loss of hair, Hashimoto's disease, inflammation, so on and so forth, cancer. And there's now scientific evidence that it's almost like having CTE. Your brain has been literally rattled and bruised, which is why so many people, I shouldn't say so, but why some people have suicidal thoughts. I was one of those who had suicidal ideation and I didn't know where it was coming from. And I told my husband, I said, I've got to get some help because something's going on here. I have never, ever felt this before. And I literally saw my body, Darrell, at the bottom of the mountain with one foot about to take the next step. And that's when I knew it was time for me to walk away. So psychological abuse is real, but it's also a problem that we can change. We have the solution. The solution is to stop normalizing abusive behavior. And when we see it, to have leaders and managers, company leaders to say, we see you, we're going to help you. And if you don't want to do the work yourself and you don't want to change, because I do believe in giving people second chances, but when they don't get better and do better, you're out of here. And if we
Hmm.
had leaders who would stand up to the bullies, including those managers, supervisors, and coworkers, and saying, you're the antithesis of what we want in this culture. You're the
Hmm.
antithesis of that. So you're the one who has to leave, not those of us who are the good employees who want to work in an environment that is respectful and equitable. And what companies need to realize is that the happier your employees are, when they feel valued and respected, they will go to the end of the earth for you. Their
Absolutely.
level of loyalty is just, it's the cream of the crop. They'll do
Hmm.
more than than what they're expected to. Their level of engagement, the level of happiness will help set the tone. And if we normalize that, then those who are the bullies, they're going to be the ones who are going to be like, you got to go. And either
Hmm.
they will shape up or they need to be the ones to ship out. But 9 times out of 10, those of us who are the bullies, we are the top performers because we care. We come to the work with feelings of compassion and empathy for other people. We truly are collaborators. We truly want to work in a team environment, well, where everyone wins. This notion that competition makes people better, I say hogwash to it. No, it doesn't. I understand sports and there's a competitive, somebody wins and somebody loses. But at the end of the day, competition within the workplace should never exist. Because if we're going to be a team, when you win, I win. When I win, you win. There is enough shine for all of us to win. So it really is about having an intentional shift in our perspective, being intentional with DEI, being intentional with seeing people for who they are, being intentional with valuing people and understanding the nuances and things that happen in life that may require a little extra something. But if you value your people, they will do the best work ever. And guess what, companies? You will make more money. There's proof that a happy workplace translates to increased profits. And isn't that what you guys want? If you want more money, then just be kind to people. Make sure that you're weeding out the bad apples. So I'm so passionate about this because I think about my son who's 17 years old. He watched me go through all of this drama, and I am apologizing to him almost every day, saying, I was not present. And I don't want any other mother, aunt, uncle, father, grandfather, sister, cousin, brother, whoever to go through this where you spend so much time ruminating about how do I make the time at my workplace work when you know that likelihood it's not going to get any better. You have to make the decision to walk away. There was something my sister said to me yesterday morning. We talk every day and have a little, we call it coffee
Hmm.
chat early in the morning. And she said, I'm just so happy that you walked away. And I said, what do you mean? I said, well, of course I walked away. She goes, no. She goes, you were literally breathing in stale and toxic air.
Mm. Mm.
Whew. I literally
Absolutely.
had to just sit in
Wow.
that for a minute.
Hmm.
And when I thought about it, I said, you're right. You don't survive. Many people don't survive
That's
toxic
true.
air. You're
Hmm.
there for 40 hours, 50, 60, even more working with people. You spend more time with workplace people than you do your own family. And if you're breathing in that toxic air, you are experiencing the abusive behaviors. Your body is telling you you're in danger. And the longer you stay, the likelihood you will not make it out alive. And
Absolutely.
unfortunately, we're seeing the suicide rate from workplace bullying increase.
Hmm.
We have the solution. The question is, what are we going to do? Are we going to utilize the solution, or are we going to continue to make excuses for not doing the right thing? I'm
Right.
not going to give up, and I'm not going to give in. I'm going to continue to push forward. And I know it feels as if we're not going to be able to do much in the next 4 years. And I say to that, this is where we need more boots on the ground. We have to continue to be intentional in that this too shall pass. He ain't going to be in there all the time. He is not going to
Mm.
be the king
Absolutely. That's
as
right.
much as he might want to. So it's
That's right.
incumbent upon for all of us to tell our stories. Again, like sexual assault, that was not a crime until more women and men began to speak up and say, this needs to be a crime. So that's what we're
Mhm.
doing within workplace abuse. We want to make sure that we have legislation in place that clearly says and allows people to hold their companies accountable for failing to protect them in the workplace. And it's very, very simple. We all know what bullying is. We know what it is. And if it takes place at a young age, we do stories about it all the time about kids who are hurting each other and bullying each other in the in school. Why do we believe that as soon as they leave school that it stops? Some of these same people are growing up to be bullies in the workplace. So we have the solution. And I just implore people to get involved with EWA, their local chapter. If you don't have a local chapter, be brave and courageous enough to become that bill director for your state because we need leaders. This is not going to change until we all realize that this affects every single person. No one is immune. And until we realize that if we don't do something, our children will inherit our lack of courage in passing this bill. And I just want to say I'm so happy with the New York State Legislature. They're right now considering I believe it's called the Workplace Bullying Prevention Act, which
Hmm.
is similar to what we're asking on a federal level and state level as well. And I believe that if they pass that, that
Right.
it's going to be a game changer for
Hmm.
EWA. It's
Yep.
going to be a game changer for the WPSA, the Workplace Psychological Safety Act that we're trying to pass. But if that happens, it's kind of like marijuana. Think about it. I'm just going to break
Pass
it
it
down.
around.
Pass it
Just
around.
pass it
Everybody's going to
around.
pass it around. Just like
That's right.
Colorado was the very first state to pass marijuana being legal. Guess
Hmm.
what? Most of the country now
That's right.
has, there are now states that have said that marijuana is legal. So it's just a matter of time. I believe that we're
Hmm.
going to get there, but it takes all of us being courageous and brave enough to speak truth to power. And there's something that John Lewis said in his memoir, Walking with the Wind. He said there comes a point in time when all of us are faced with making a decision. And it's not just about the moral decision between right and wrong, it's the decision of humanity. How are we going to use our time on this earth to motivate, to educate, to inspire, and to affect change where everyone can thrive? And he says the spirit of history is what called him as a college student. So many people say, well, how did you get through it? You were being beaten, you were in jail, you were, you experienced all of those things that you put your life on the line and you could have died. Why did you do it? And my favorite passage in this book, he says, it is the spirit of history. We
Mm.
all have to ask ourselves, are you going to answer the call to the spirit of history? And the spirit of history is a call that he says doesn't attach and it doesn't call everyone. But for the people who it does, it's an unshakable feeling where you can't stop. Even when you are facing death, when you're facing retaliation, when you're facing losing your home, when you're facing not having food on the table, when you can't pay your car note, It doesn't matter because the spirit of history has called you and you can't turn away. You can't turn your back. You are motivated to keep pushing because you know that someday change will come. How willing are you to answer to the spirit of history? Because history will tell us. History will prove those who were for and against. And which side of right do you want to be on? The spirit of history called me. I know it beyond a shadow of a doubt. My mother-in-law called and said, "Babe, I see the stuff you're putting on LinkedIn. You're crying in this video. You're telling truth in that video. I don't want you to relapse. We want you to be here for your family." And I tell my mother in law and my family, I said, "I'm going to be fine." God healed me because he knew that that challenge of going through breast cancer prepared me for this fight. If I can win that, I'm going to beat this. This is simple. This is simple. All that's required of us is to speak truth to power. I'm
Hmm.
not putting my life on the line. I'm not going to be killed. I'm not being hit by billy clubs. I'm not getting water hoses put on me. Dogs aren't coming to my home and pulling me out of the house and biting all over me. I'm not dealing with what we saw in the civil rights movement. All we're required to do is speak truth to power, to open our mouths and to collectively work together to make a change. So the spirit of history has called me. I know that I was called for this moment. I was called for this movement, and I'm not going anywhere. The more they do against me, the deeper I dig my heels and I say, let's go. I'm not
That's
going anywhere.
that's what's up. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, now you see why I love this woman. She is an inspiration to me on so many levels,
Mm.
and the spirit of history has called me as well. And if
Yes, it
you feel
has.
like the spirit of history is calling you, then I ask you to sign up and join us in our fight. That is the national website right there. You can go there, and there's much information about local chapters. And if not, you can reach out to us and we'll get someone to help you and assist you to either set up your chapter. There's we set up the New Jersey chapter not very long ago, and thank you, Andrea, because I heard that you were quite important and pivotal in helping us get that done as well.
Yes, I met
So
with three or four of your leaders one day on a Zoom,
absolutely,
and they
yep,
wanted to know how do we start, and we talked for about 2 hours, and I'm like, here you go. This is what
that's
you need to
right,
do. Here are our templates. Use it.
that's
Use it,
right.
use it, use it. And we talk all the time with all of the chapters because we're all in this together. Again, we don't gatekeep. We do
Mhm.
not gatekeep. We are
That's
all in
absolutely
this
right.
together.
Yep, and the template, one of the things that made it so. Um, I don't want to say it's easy because it is work and it does take some volunteer time and stuff, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
No.
Like you said, there's templates out there, there's other chapters and people who are willing to help you get this started. Um, so it's been something that I've truly feel has been a call on my life as well. So
Amen.
I can testify to that and I'm grateful for that. One of the other things I wanted to touch on before we wrap it up was
Yes,
that
sir.
you was your work with Dr. Candia Bell and her family, which was
Mm.
unprecedented. I wanted to leave that website up there because any of those who haven't seen it, you can go to the www.inworkplaceabuse.com website, and it is still there, still posted, and you have to see this video if you haven't seen it, because Andrea touched on not everybody makes it through this
Mm-mm.
journey and through this struggle. We do have some people who have given their lives to this cause,
Mm-hmm.
so it's important for you to go see that video as well. Tell us some things, a little bit more about Clover Media and
Yeah.
My Sounds is Not for Sale, and how people can just find you and follow you and get more involved, even if they don't want to be directly involved
Mm.
with workplaceabuse.com and the national organization. Just tell them how they could follow and love on Andrea per se,
Oh, you're so
because I
sweet.
think that's very important as well.
Well, Darrell, Cloverleaf Media is the name of my production company that I founded about 16 years ago. And it was founded to create content that would inspire, educate, and motivate people. And I really wanted to focus on content that was about the Black diaspora, about us, because I realized, being in the media, that the only stories that a lot of people saw was about crime. That was the story that would lead the top of the newscast. But we were never having stories about just average people who looked like us, who were doing wonderful things in the community. So I tried to make that part of my personal career move, if you will, when I used to work at the former TV station. And I was met with resistance every single time, but I would try to sift it in. But the fact that I had to be intentional about doing that tells you that diversity, equity, and inclusion is necessary. Because if we only see the lens, if we're only looking through the lens through one person's view, then we're not getting the full complexion of and the vitality of life. And I wanted to create content where we were the main actors and actresses in the play, if you will. And so I was able to do a number of special projects that I created. One was called It's a Family Reunion, What's Your Story? Where we follow Black families, Black and brown families. And we know that family reunions are really important to us. And I wanted to highlight families and the beauty and the love and the character and the history of who we are during a family reunion. That aired on PBS. Oh gosh, that was about maybe 10 years ago. Time flies. And that was in connection with Ancestry.com. We all know about Ancestry. They helped to produce that with me. And I also was commissioned to do a kind of a Black History Month special, if you will, on the Indiana Trailblazers, those African American men and women who literally fought the good fight during the Civil Rights Movement. That was actually nominated for an Emmy Award as well. And so over the years, I've just been using that platform to really create good content. So I do some freelance work with a number of people, a number of producers from Indianapolis, all over the country, in the crime genre, in home improvement, in, HDTV kind of content. And I just love it. I love it because there's so much of who we are as people of color that people don't see because we have not normalized it in the media. Something as simple as Black people who own dogs. I mean, it's crazy to me that folks who don't look like us don't believe, or they believe that we don't have a life similar to theirs, that we don't just do normal things. And so that's really, really important to me. So Clover Lane Media was named after the street that I lived on as the fourth grader in Oklahoma City. The name of the street was Clover Lane. So that's where that name come from. And my silence is not for sale is kind of this phrase that I created unknowingly at the time when I decided to drop the federal lawsuit against the company. And I know a lot of people are like, well, that means you didn't have any evidence. And I said, oh, no, my friend, I've got all the receipts. I still got them. It's all in my closet. I got them on the depositions. But a lot of people don't realize that when you're suing a company, depending on if it's discrimination or racial discrimination, if you're suing based on racial discrimination, you all know the system is rigged. It is not rigged for you to win. And here's the reason why. The 1964 Civil Rights Act needs to be overhauled. If you're suing for racial discrimination, if you cannot prove intent, intent is only provable based on the Civil Rights Act, based on white men who decided back in 1964 that if they didn't call you the N word or put a noose on your desk, you cannot prove intent. I'm going to let
Right.
that just sit there for you guys because
Right.
a lot of
That's
us
a big,
think, I'm going to sue like I
that's a
did.
big one. Yes, it
And you
is.
realize, oh, I can't prove intent. So, yes, all of these
Mhm.
things happened. But if your state does not have an anti bullying law, which many of them don't, I don't know one that does. If you don't have a law that's going to protect you, if you file for racial discrimination, it may be difficult to prove. I have all of the evidence of all of the unconscionable behaviors that happened to me. And any reasonable person would say, yeah, Andrea was bullied. Absolutely. It's clear. But absent intent, you
Mhm.
will not win. So when I realized that that was the strategy, that that
Yep.
was the rule, that I was never going to win or prove, I had to make a very strategic decision. Do I take the
Okay.
settlement offer? Because they did offer a settlement. Do I take the settlement and walk away, sign an NDA, and never talk about it again? Because my justice was going to court. I wanted people to hear what happened. I wanted the public and the community of Indianapolis to know why I walked away. It was not good enough for me as a journalist to just say, okay, I'll take the money and walk away and live the rest of my life, and all is good, nothing to see here. A journalist, we're supposed to hold the powerful accountable. And I say all the time, you all must have forgotten that I'm a journalist. I'm an old school journalist. I'm not one of those new journalists where I'm giving all my opinions and all of that that we see happening right now on media across the board. I'm that person who is going to hold the powers that be accountable with truth, justice, honor, and integrity. So at the 11th hour, I had to make a decision on that Monday by 12:30 to let the company know whether or not I was going to accept the settlement offer. And mind you, their attorney told my attorney, just tell Andrea to take it. It's a lot of money. And I said again, you don't know me. Money doesn't motivate me. Justice is defined by the person who seeks it. Justice for me was the truth. It's always been about the truth. I wanted the truth to come out. And when I realized that that process was not going to allow the truth to come out, at 12:29, I had my attorney call them before the 12:30 deadline and say, Andrea's not taking it, which they didn't expect. Because now, remember I said at the very beginning of this podcast, the truth is always a defense. So I can now talk about it, all about it.
That's
And there's
powerful.
nothing they can do. And I've
Absolutely.
written, if I've said something that is defaming, sue me. But they won't because they know I have the goods and we'll have to litigate the truth. And they
Mm,
don't want to litigate the truth. But if you
mm.
do, let's go. I'm ready. Let's do it. But that's the reason why I dropped the lawsuit. And at the end of this note that I had on LinkedIn explaining why, because a lot of people are like, oh, that must mean you didn't have any evidence. Yeah, we
Mm.
knew you were lying. I was like, oh, no, my friends. No, sir. No, ma'am. I've got the evidence and they know I do. So I said, my silence is not for sale. And this is not to denigrate people who take a settlement because that is part of the process. That is part of the process when you're suing in civil court. That is how companies mitigate what happened. They pay you off and you walk away. But for me, I just couldn't do it because I wanted the truth to come out. That was more important to me. So I took a risk. I've lost a lot and it was worth it because the truth is helping to change laws. That is why I did it. And so it's been 5 years. It's been a long haul. Again, I have lost a lot, but I would do it all over again because I'm now part of a community that we're all working collectively to help change laws. I answer the call to the spirit of history. I decided that truth matters. It always has mattered. And I know in this world that we're living in right now, people are questioning, does truth really matter when lies seem to win? The reality of it is, it might win in the moment, but truth eventually will cover the darkness. Eventually, it will. And I believe that we're in a moment in history right now that was meant to happen so that we can get back to right. It was meant to happen. So I tell people all the time at this juncture in my life that my silence is not for sale. For me, may not be for someone else, but for me, I want the truth to come out. My talent will make a way for me. I don't need to work for an entity. My
That's right.
talent will make a way for me. So, knowing that, in spite of the hardships along the way, it has been so gratifying to know that I'm meeting people like Darell and meeting people with New Jersey and all the other states who are part of EWA, meeting Deb, meeting all the men and women of diverse backgrounds who have experienced this workplace bullying and have said, enough is enough. To me, it was worth it. There's no amount of money that would ever take away the pain and the trauma of what I experienced. So now that I have gone through the healing journey, and I'm still on it, that journey will always be here because there are triggers that come up on a daily basis sometimes. But I'm in a space now where I can not laugh about what happened, but I just go, how sad those people are that They wanted control and power so bad that they were willing to hurt other people, intentionally hurt me. And I don't ever want this to happen to anybody else, which is why I'm speaking out, which is why I'm an advocate, which is why I'll never stop. I will always be a thorn in the side of Tegna and Channel 13 in Indianapolis, NBC. And guess what?
Absolutely.
I'm here for it.
That's right. And we got your back. We got your back.
Oh,
No
thank
doubt about it.
you.
We have
Thank
your
you. Thank
back
you. Thank
all the
you.
way. One of the reasons that, I wanted to kind of wrap up with that segment is because I know right now there's somebody out there who is, one of the first things that kind of happens to people who were friends with you at work. They no longer answer your emails or your phone calls or your text messages. So
Well,
they,
let me be
they kind
clear.
of
I'm
corner
not
you.
reaching out to them.
Yeah. So
So
they
I don't
kind of,
even know if they're sending me emails or texts. I don't even talk to them.
they they try to they try to they try to push you into a corner. They
Yeah.
being the entities that are the bullies, they try to push
Yeah.
you into this corner and make you feel like you're dealing with this all alone
Yeah.
and that there's no one out there going through what you're going through. So I'm
Hmm.
so glad and grateful that you were able to come on today and share your story, your impactful, powerful
Absolutely.
story. And I know that there's someone out there that's in that space and place and time right now. You're not alone.
Mm-mm.
And don't let them make you think that you have to be silent. Andrea is living proof that you can tell your story and it has a healing
It does.
interconnection that is going to radiate with other people who are in your same situation or
Hmm.
similar. So we just want you to know that you're not alone out there. There's others like you. The stories may be different, the players may be different, but the end result is still the same. And they're after your life and the livelihood of your family. So once again, I'm going to pop the website up there so that you can go onto the website. Number one, when you get there, please look at
Hmm.
Andrea's video on Dr.
Oh,
Candia Bailey. Shout out to her and her family for
absolutely.
their lending their time and efforts to
Hmm.
you and to us in workplace abuse. What a phenomenal job. And I'm telling you, folks, you
Thank
got to
you.
see this video. Andrea and her team, they did a magnificent job. And if you want to join us, you want to help us, you want to donate your time or any of your resources, that's the website to go to. I am so grateful that my friend, my sister, my person that I look up to in real time every day
Thank
has
you.
been able to spend time with us. We kind of had this thing. Andrea taught me this thing called run show, right? So we create these run shows
The run up show,
where,
yes.
where we're supposed to be going along to these guidelines. But sometimes, and it happens a lot on
Yeah.
these podcasts, where the stories and the way that the podcast and the interview is going is so impactful that you just have to let it run.
Run, let it
So
run. That's it.
yeah, just
That's
just let
it.
it run. So
Hmm.
I'm grateful that we had an opportunity to come before the people and share your story. I'm grateful to you and your family for the
Thank
sacrifices
you.
that you all have made to allow us into your lives and that you could be here to help
You're
um,
welcome.
people who are severely impacted right now. And and
And let me
and to
tell
you,
you, when you talk
yes,
about helping people, I forgot to tell everyone, I do have a YouTube show. It's called My Silence Is Not for Sale. And this entire second season, we are going to be literally focusing on nothing but the legalities to help you decide, do you sue your employer? Do you have enough evidence? What do you do in terms of how do you look for a good attorney? Because all attorneys are not good attorneys. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. I'm just going to keep it
absolutely,
real. It's
that's
also
true.
going to teach you those lessons of if you get to the EEOC, what does that look like? What does that really mean? Are they really there to help you out? Do you go through mediation? If you get the right to sue, what is the next level? So I'm going to be showing you guys and teaching you everything you need to know to prepare you for a potential legal fight. Is it going to be worth it financially and emotionally? Because I will tell you, they're going to run you through the ringer. It is an emotional game. It is a game of who's going to last the longest. It
Absolutely.
is emotionally traumatizing, financially traumatizing. And so I just want to show the nuances of that process so that everyone knows what they're getting into. Because there's so many, I think it's easy for us to believe, like, well, you harmed me, so I'm going to sue you. Because television makes it look easy, like, oh, okay, you just sue your employer and they're going to pay you off and you're going to ride into the sunset. It's not that easy. Many of them don't end in settlement. Many of them end in you walking away and saying, forget about it. And that's because the laws are written in their favor. So you may not even get to a jury. And if you do, what does that process look like? If you don't, if you get a right to sue in federal court, what takes place? What are the next steps? One of those steps are depositions. Will you ever be able to sit for depositions where that information is going to be used for a jury trial if you ever get to a jury trial? And if that company decides after the depositions, oh, we're going to just go ahead and ask for summary judgment, which both parties will, based on my evidence, is it likely that I will be able to go forward? Or will the judge say, Andrea, you can't prove intent, so you're not going to be able to go forward? And now you've wasted your money and your time. And again, that's the reason why I decided it's not worth moving forward, because I know that I can't prove this. They know that I can't. So they
Mhm.
were probably laughing at me the entire time. But I got the last laugh because I'm out here talking about them, which they didn't expect. But I want people to understand what that process looks like. So this season is all about the legalities. My story, other cases, we will be utilizing experts as trauma therapists, as well as attorneys, employment lawyers who are specifically dealing with issues like this in workplace bullying. But beyond that, I will be showing for the very first time the sound bites, if you will, the audio, the actual deposition process. I'm opening up the books for the very
Wow.
first time so that
Wow.
people can see and hear the conversations that go on in depositions, and how your defendant employer will even gaslight, retaliate, manipulate the conversation to get you to either say something that is erroneous, or for you to get all crazy and like, I don't know. It's all a manipulation game. And so we're going to talk about it. So I'm calling it the Depo Files. You guys make sure you join me, because I'm going to keep talking about it. And there's no better way than to what? Speak the truth. And the
Speak the
truth
truth.
is always a defense.
That's right. The truth is always a defense. Tell the people how they can follow you and find you on social media platforms.
Yes, I'm Andrea Morehead Allen on LinkedIn. I'm Andrea Morehead on Instagram, Twitter, and what's the other one? Facebook. I have two
Facebook.
different pages. Andrea Morehead. They're two pages, a professional and a personal. And unfortunately, the one on Instagram is Andrea WTHR. Now, that's the channel that I work for, WTHR. And I know a lot of people are like, why do you still have their name attached to your name? Well, Instagram won't let me change it. When back in the day, when Instagram first came out, our TV station, they're the ones who kind of created our accounts for us,
Mhm.
and they will not change it. I can't change it. So I tell people the W, the T, and the H, and the R it all stands for wisdom, truth, honesty, and respect.
I
I think
like
it's
that.
pretty,
I like that.
yeah, I think
Pretty
it's
cool.
interesting that it still
Pretty
is
cool.
working
All
for
worked
me.
out. And I've looked at that page as well. There's a lot of content on there, which is why I understand that you just don't take it down, because there's some content that you can't replace there. So just so the people will understand that that's part of the decision and not taking it completely down.
Absolutely. Or starting another page. I'm not just
Starting
not going
another
to do
page.
that.
That's
So
correct.
I'm
Just
making
some
it work
content.
for me.
Absolutely. Wow, this has been great. Ladies and gentlemen, now you understand, and you've had an
Oh.
opportunity to have a full conversation with Andrea Morehead Allen, one of our most powerful and impactful activists. And that's what I like to call her, because she is an
Mm.
activist and she's fighting for not just her own cause and things that she's experienced, but for everyone else as well. The reason that she does what she does is to help people.
Yeah.
There's no monetary gain in it for her or her family. They've already sacrificed enough and they understood and they understand her position and they support her. So again, shout out to your family as
Thank
well.
you.
We love you. We will continue to
I
support you,
love you.
and it has been such a pleasure to have you on, ladies and gentlemen. Andrea Morehead Allen.
It's been an honor. Thank you all. Thank you. God bless you.
One more time, give them where they can follow you at, because I'm sure there's some people that are going to want to
Yeah.
stick with you and continue to know you.
Yeah, just come on to YouTube, follow My Silence Is Not for Sale. Everything that I've done over the last year is there. And again, we just started season 2, and it's all about the depo files. We're going to talk about depositions, we're going to hear the truth and a lot of lies.
All right. Well, there you have it. The beautiful, the lovely, the powerful, the impactful
Thank
Andrea
you.
Morehead Allen. Thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate you.
My honor.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was a great and empowered, impactful show. I just feel like, that's going to be a hard one to replace and not take a look at. We have a lot of guests coming up. I don't know if it gets any better than that. She's a special lady, as you all can probably tell. She's done a lot for me personally in my growth in this podcast industry. She's done a lot for the chapter in New Jersey. She's done a lot on the national level as well. So please follow her and look. I look forward to those to those episodes she's got coming up and what her and Clover Media are doing. There's some things that I didn't discuss on the air that I'm going to talk to her about with some other entities involving cancer, breast cancer survivors, and breast cancer survivors, and just a whole bunch of you. As you could tell, I'm so excited. I just, this has been, like I said earlier, this has been like interviewing your favorite athlete. So I want to thank everyone who joined us, and I hope that today was powerful and impactful, and that you got something from that message and her sharing with you. Once again, that is the website that you can go to help us. If you want to donate your time, your resources, you want to develop a chapter, anything you want to do to help this cause, that's the website you go to. I want to thank everyone once again for joining us. Thanks once again to our guests, the beautiful, the lovely, the impactful Andrea Morehead Allen. Folks, be safe out there, be strong, and stay together. And remember, the truth, just like Andrea said, is the truth. And no one can take that away from you, and it will prevail in the end. Have a good evening.